Well, we're sitting here today for our council preview. It's that time again. I'm sitting with Steve Barg. I'm Tom Laux, Communications Director. Thanks for coming.
Tom, it's good to be here.
All righty. Well, June 9th is what we're going to be talking about, a Common Council meeting on the 9th at 6 p.m. It's already the second week of June. You believe it?
It's unbelievable. Going so fast already.
It does. Well, we have a lot in store for the public here watching, and there's quite a bit on this agenda.
There is.
And Steve, you're going to tell us all about what's happening. Let's start right now on a public hearing. It has to do with Mill in Place project. We just had an informational meeting on Wednesday, June 3rd.
Yep.
What's this about?
Well, yeah, and maybe I can start out by saying that you can participate in various ways, and one of the ways you can still participate in this is by calling and chiming in during the public hearing. The council, when they last met, talked again about what to do with the meetings and whether or not they should, continue to allow these remote possibilities or require everyone to be in person. But with COVID-19 continuing, they felt it was appropriate that not only elected officials and staff, but members of the public who'd want to weigh in have the chance to do so at our council meetings via remote means. So, yeah, we have a list of about, maybe 14 or 15 street sections, Tom, that work being done, mill in place type work. That's where we take the existing surface, grind it down, and lay on a new couple of inches of asphalt. And there's some other improvements for some of these projects, too. It might be some culvert work, driveway approaches, those types of things. City pays for the lion's share of these projects, but the abutting property owners pay for a portion. That's what this is about. So, there's a number of streets. You've gotten a notice at home if you're abutting one of these, that this is your chance to come out and say, I think maybe I'm paying too much. I don't understand why I should be paying this much for the work that was done in front of my house. You mentioned the public information meeting. That was a great time, obviously. Always is a great time to connect with our engineering staff and better understand what went into those cost allocations. But if you still feel that you want to talk to the council, this is your opportunity.
Yeah, this is the opportunity to talk to the body, and but keep in mind, you can call Tom, engineering staff, no matter what, here and ask questions. You don't have to wait for this meeting to do that at any time. Do it during business hours, 7:30 to 4:30. I know Tom is definitely willing to talk and help you through your questions, but if for some reason they want to talk to the council, that's the time.
Yeah, Tom Turchi, our city engineer, his phone number is 486-2033. 486-2033, and he or a member of his staff would be glad to talk to you about questions you have regarding not only the special assessments, but anything related to these projects.
Alrighty. Well, at times in the show, Steve, we do a look back, but we're going to look back at the minutes, which is a look back. Let's talk about CIP, and then the next one will be about our pool update, which were two previous council meetings.
Tom, we're going to have a lot of conversation about finances in the weeks ahead. We're going to talk about CIP in a minute. That's our 5-year capital plan, the blueprint for the future. Later on, we're going to talk about the audit, which is a look back to the previous year and where we stand today. And in not very long, as you know, we're going to be talking about the 2021 budget. So for you folks at home who like finances, this is going to be your period of time. But the council did hear the presentation of the projects from our department heads, got through about 2/3 of the requests, and we have a third left to go. That'll be on June 11th at the second CIP meeting. After those presentations, hopefully they'll come to a consensus as to additions, subtractions, changes, so that we can bring the plan forward to approval at a regular council meeting. But Tom, there were some great questions at the meeting on May 28th about what we can afford, about some of these maintenance concerns. You look ahead and say, well, is it best for us to maintain this or to look at maybe redoing it in the future instead of doing that? The kind of things you might do at home with your own property. And there was good conversation. The meeting went 2.5 hours long, and we still didn't get through all the items. So that tells you there was a lot of thoughtful discussion.
Yeah, definitely. So when we're talking about capital, we're talking about items, general items that are over maybe $10,000 or $12,000. They're not purchased annually. They're once every 5-6 years, maybe 10, depends on the nature of the piece of equipment. Is that correct?
That's correct, Tom. Every city probably does it a little bit differently. There's no magic accounting standard, but for us, we use 5-year useful life as a minimum and then $10,000. So anything with an expected life of 5 or more years and a $10,000 cost gets put into this hopper. We didn't used to do that. We used to just use this for the major road projects and larger facility upgrades, but then we realized that, then we're talking about those other items at the budget time, and it's the first time council sees them in October. And it's better if they get a chance to see all these larger purchases earlier on and decide whether or not they think that they're worthwhile and can be incorporated. So there's a lot of projects on this list.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's our way of planning, just like any other business would be doing. Let's talk about the pool update. That was on a special Common Council meeting on Monday of this week, June 1st.
You know, Tom, for people who saw our May 26th regular council meeting, they saw that the council was very strong about wanting to reopen all the city facilities and buildings as soon as possible. You know, we had the issue with Safer at Home, and then the Supreme Court came along and struck that down. But there's a lot of cities still trying to struggle with when to open these facilities, how you still want to provide for social distancing and good precautions. But the council, their directive was to try and get these open at the earliest possible time and do the precautions that are appropriate. Well, at that time, the council directed the Park and Recreation Director, Justin Casperson, to reopen the pool by June 20th and get HEFCO operational for the summer season. But after the meeting, I think even by the end of the meeting, under items for future agendas, Council President Tom Witzel said, you know, maybe what Justin suggested might make sense, that we not open for this season. Instead, we go full bore into trying to speed ahead with the new aquatic center that we're going to build, so that come June 1st of 2021, that would hopefully be ready for a full season with a brand new aquatic center. Well, the mayor kind of liked that idea as well, and so we put it on a special meeting agenda for June 1st, and the council overwhelmingly agreed. Now, I think we know that we'll hear comments from people saying, oh my gosh, HEFCO pool. You know, my family, we look so forward to going swimming there during the summer, and this is not good. And I hope they understand and can take the longer view, because I appreciate that concern. But the idea that we would like to get the new pool up and running right away for the start of the next season, have a full season with that aquatic center, is a very appealing thought.
Most definitely. Well, I drove by our, I'll call it a splash pad. I don't think we really call it that, but it's open. Yeah. There's a good way to cool off. It's an opportunity for the kids, maybe some adults.
Yeah, and I realize that fountain area is more for younger kids than it is for other people who might use the HEFCO pool. And you know, but it's a great facility. And actually, Wenzel Family Plaza is open all the time. So if you want to go down there, just grab a bite to eat with your family, have a picnic lunch, have the kids go through the water. That's a great thing to do. And I realize we're coming off of COVID-19. We're not done with COVID-19, but people have felt kind of cooped up in their homes. And so the HEFCO announcement is, like I said, maybe not welcomed by everybody, but I think in the longer term vision, the council made a wise decision to look ahead to the day when that beautiful new facility that's been planned for a while now can be in place.
Yeah, and then over the next 3 months, I'm sure the public will be hearing different things throughout our meetings on maybe bids, construction schedules, if that happens this year yet, which is hopeful, I believe.
It is, Tom. And a lot of the contractors are still hungry, I understand. Some of their plates aren't totally full. So the thought that we're going out for bids now, the council authorized us to solicit, and we can get some of the work going later in the summer and the fall, will give us a big jump on the construction.
Correct.
And that could save us some money. Not sure how much or anything like that, but it'll certainly help out on the timeline to get the project completed.
Yeah, and I'll just mention fundraising is in full force again. It never did shut down, but we understood with the COVID. So still looking to raise at least, I believe, $500,000 and beyond if possible. So they just need to could go out and talk to Justin, our Parks and Rec director, call Parks and Rec, or go to our website and find the information under Parks and Rec.
Yeah, I'm into giving phone numbers today, I guess. Justin Casperson, our Parks and Recreation director, does an outstanding job. He's heading up this aquatic center project. His phone number is 486-2042. That's 486-2042. And yeah, we'd love to have you consider donating yourself as an individual, your business. We still are looking for more funds for this project. And hopefully people now see us getting to the finish line and get excited about jumping on board.
Exactly. No donation is too small.
Correct. Well said.
Yep. All right, well, let's move on to staff reports, and I will let you take what you want to bring up in those 3 items.
Yeah, thank you. I'll probably touch on all 3 briefly. I'm going to give a little update on the 2020 census, and this is my chance to thank you publicly, Tom, for all the work you've done to publicize in various ways on multiple platforms that we want people to fill out the census. And, you know, sometimes that drumbeat seems loud for people. I've heard it. But we want everyone in the city counted, and our participation rate has been very good. Statewide, Wisconsin's doing well, and within the state, Marshfield is doing very well. But we still have a lot of people who haven't filled it out, so please consider doing so. The next item is going back to that May 26th council meeting, and again, just telling people where we're at. Council directed that most everything reopen on June 1st. I'm going to let them know that that's happened. I'll let them know of any concerns or problems we've been facing. But truthfully, in talking with Lori Belangi at the library and others, really the reopening has gone pretty well. You know, there's some people who maybe are less on board with the program than others in terms of the social distancing requirements and the posting that we're doing at these buildings. But most of the citizens seem to be really adapting well. They're happy to be able to access these facilities again. And but I'll give council a full report there. And then finally, I'm introduce, either I'll introduce or somebody else will potentially, our new city employee, Jill Porter, who's going to be the library director. And this is my chance to say what a great job Lori Belangi has done for so many years here. I don't even know how many. Sorry, Lori, I should know your time of service here. But outstanding library director, has done so many great things, including heading up that project that got us the new Everett Rail Marshfield Public Library. That's such a great facility. And her time is coming to an end as a city employee. And Jill Porter is from Michigan. And she's coming to join us, and excited about her new position here at the city.
Alrighty, well, we look forward to that, and if you want to know more about Jill Porter, I had a chance to not sit down with her, but over a Zoom meeting while she's been in Michigan, and you'll be able to see that on my Connections program throughout the week and month of June, so tune in to that. It's a good way to get to know her, and she has a cat, and
oh, really?
It's just, yeah, so it's just nice to, a chance I had to sit down and talk with her for about a half hour, so tune in to my Connections throughout the week, and you'll find out more about her as well. But she will be introduced by our mayor.
Yep.
All right, let's move all the way down to consent agenda. There is a piece of Board of Public Works, I believe.
Yeah, we hit the pause button on this columbarium project about a month ago, Tom, but we reactivated it, went back and got bids, kind of changed things around a little bit as far as the bid specs, I understand. And we got 3 bids for construction of the columbarium. Staff recommended, and the Board of Public Works is supporting one from Cold Spring for about $35,000. It's not the lowest of the 3 bids, but again, bids are different in this sense, and really probably should be called a proposal, than the bids we get for street projects where we have to take the low qualified bidder. In this case, the lowest bidder didn't appear to had some discrepancies apparently in their proposal, and so Cold Spring is the one selected. Just to remind people, columbarium, it's above ground storage of the remains, and we believe that these spaces will sell out very quickly. It's a very good use of the perpetual care funds. They'll be replenished very fast as people are oftentimes making that choice now instead of regular cemetery plots.
All right. Finance, Budget, and Personnel had a meeting on Tuesday, June 2nd. There was some discussion about how assessing is handled and our services. Can you touch base on that, please?
I sure can, Tom. 3 years ago, when Joan Spencer retired as our city assessor, she'd been our assessor for almost 4 decades. Incredible. We went out for bids for contract services, and we got a company called Groda Appraisals from Menominee Falls. 3 other companies bid for it, but we chose Groda. Well, now they're coming to the end of the 3-year contract, and the Finance, Budget, and Personnel Committee has talked about this twice now. So what do? Do you sign on with Groda for a couple more years? Do you look at other companies out there to see if there's a better deal, maybe better price, better product? Or do you look at the old model again and bring it back and say, it'd be nice to have our own staff assessor? Now, when Joan Spencer was here, we did have somebody here 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, to serve the people directly. And with a contract assessor, you don't have that. They're only here part of the time. They've got other communities that they serve. So that question has come up. Questions of what we can afford have come up as well. The full-time salary and benefits of a position, is a cost as well. So the committee said, hey, staff, do some work on this. Compare A to B to C. Come back in 2 weeks and show us the financials, and then we'll decide which way we think we want to go. But it's an important thing. In the next couple of years, Tom, we're going to be looking at doing a full revaluation, which means we're going to try and get out there to all homes, all businesses, really take a look at what's out there for the property, and do some revaluation of parcels. And that's a big thing. So we're kind of preparing for some larger activity on the assessing front.
And, that's not done every so many years. I'm not sure how many the assessing is, but would that cost extra regardless anyway?
Yeah, that's an extra cost, and that's a separate contract.
Yeah.
And we normally have to do this about every 8 or 9 years or so. And what you do is, the state tells you when they think that you're falling out of compliance. So they tell us what they think that the full value of our properties are, and then we look at the assessed value and say, oh, we're losing ground. And we're nearing that point now. So it's an expensive thing to do a revaluation, but sometime in the next 4 or 5 years, we definitely need to be doing this.
And would that have been done by staff previously, or is that always a contract? It's such a big endeavor.
Well, when Joan Spencer was our assessor, Tom, and we did it on in-house with staff, it was a big deal because our staff is pretty light in terms of number of individuals. But we did do it in-house, and I know a lot of contractors do this work as a separate project as well.
Right. Well, it's a decision that I'm sure is going to have to be in front of the council.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's
absolutely.
one of them that is part of the decision process moving forward.
But again, this is what's so good about the Board of Public Works and the Finance, Budget, and Personnel Committee, the two council subcommittees. That's where you can really just bake these issues. The next time they talk about it will be the third time they discuss assessing. So by the time they come to the full council, there'll probably be some idea that people have grabbed onto, and that's the value of those subcommittees.
All right. Well, I'll touch base on this. So, Superintendent Chris Howley, is that how you pronounce his name?
Chris Howley,
Howley brought up a piece to the Finance, Budget, and Personnel Committee on Tuesday. It's not a new position, or it is?
Well, it's a need for, it's another position. We have a specialized equipment operator now, but he wants an additional one because, and if you looked at some of the pictures, I think I only put one in here, but he put multiple pictures in the packet of some of the equipment that these people need to operate, and there's a higher level of expertise required. So, as part of this, the pay range for that position is greater. It's one step, I believe, over the existing position, but in Chris's position as our street superintendent, he does a great job. He needs to have people who can do the work and use the pieces of equipment that we need to use, and that changes over time. The equipment, really, new things come out every year, and we need people who can do that. So he's looking for somebody who is a little bit more specialized and that he can entrust more work with these pieces of equipment. And there was a lot of discussion. I think you were there, and it was a 3-2 vote. So it probably will be discussed or could be discussed by the council. Anytime you have a divided vote by a committee, look for someone potentially to pull it off. But there was enough support that night to say, okay, having another one of these because you have more specialized equipment to operate and you need a higher level of individual for that is a good thing.
Yeah, you don't want me running this. I don't know what it does.
Me either. Just starting my car in the morning and driving to work is enough for me.
Yeah, I totally understand that you got to have the people be able to operate the equipment you purchase, otherwise why purchase it?
Right.
So,
right.
All right, well, let's move down the piece here. There's quite a bit of stuff. We have to talk about an audit that is done. Is that done every year?
Yep.
But this one's on some TIF districts. You want to touch on that?
Yeah, the TIF district one's not done every year.
Okay.
That's based upon how the lifetime of those districts. The regular annual audit is every year, and it's really a snapshot of where you're at. We talk all the time about budget reports that the finance department puts out. Where are we at in October? Where are we at in whatever? But you have to have the auditor come and go through all the books and say, okay, here's how 2019 ended. You are this much to the good, or you're this much to the bad, so to speak, surplus or deficit. And how are the funds doing as a whole? Are they reflecting the balances that they should have? And they'll point out things as a part of this, Tom. They'll say, you know what, your fund balance for general fund reserves is a little low here. When you go to the, I'm making this up now, but when you go to the bond market, they might have some concerns about your safety net. Or they might say that it's doing great. You've increased from last year, and that gives a good cushion that will look good when you borrow money. And they go through all these different things. And this year they're going to go through the status of 3 of our 7 TIF districts. TIF District 4 is downtown. TIF District 7 is the industrial park. TIF District 9 is up on the north end. It encompasses the Forward Financial property. And they're going to tell us, here's where you're at. Here's when we think you can close. Here's if we think you have problems with cash flow going forward. And that's helpful too. This whole thing is really to put a foundation on the ground before you start diving into the annual budget process, which really begins in just a couple of weeks.
Okay. Well, we'll learn about that on Tuesday, and someday, I promised our viewers we would talk about TIF someday.
Oh, yeah.
We'll get there.
Yeah, maybe sometime we can talk a little bit more in depth about how they work.
Yeah, because they are, it's a hard thing to wrap around because there's the terminology. But
Yep.
well, let's continue. Comprehensive plan. That is a 20-year plan. The initial plan was just done in 2017. You were here, I wasn't, but I've been through a comprehensive plan in the past city I worked with, and it's a big deal. I think there's going to be changes that happen throughout that plan. This is one that is coming up amongst us. Am I right?
Yep.
I think
Well, there's a request to modify the comprehensive plan in,
Okay.
in one area of town on the southeast side,
Okay.
and we get these periodically, and they're worth looking at. What happened in 2017, 2020, the world's even changing. What's going to happen in 2025 or 2030? And it really, it was a good project done back in 2017, and what they said was, here's what we want to see happen in the future. And you chart out areas when you do comprehensive planning. You say, well, right now this area looks like it's kind of commercial, but over time we think this would be better as residential. We think it'd be better served to transition. So what happened here, Tom, is that there's a landowner on the 2300 block of South Peach Avenue who is looking to have a duplex, where right now it only calls for low density, which is only single family housing. And he's saying, well, look around here. There's some duplexes around me. It's along Peach, which is kind of a busy street, and I'd like to see you upgrade at one level of designation to a medium density residential that would allow for duplexes and townhomes. And there was a lot of debate at the council meeting about whether or not this is a good thing to do. Yeah, there's a few duplexes out there, but does that mean we need to change the future plan to allow for duplexes on that entire strip from 21st to 25th? Staff is supporting it. The Plan Commission is supporting it as well, saying that it's reasonable, that duplexes would actually fit there on that stretch. But the council, in the first hearing, when they have a first reading of these ordinances, they don't vote. They don't even give their view of how they're going to vote. But there were, I think, at least 3 people who had some pretty serious questions about whether they could support this, as I recall. And so it'll probably be an interesting discussion before they take a final vote.
Yeah, it will. And but today's duplexes and stuff, I think, have changed from maybe years and years ago. So
Yeah.
I would think was presented somewhat in this plan by our city planner Bryce. So I just wanted to I don't like to interject my thoughts, but I'm saying that there is a difference, and nowadays we want to make sure there's enough housing for the people. That's the most important part, where we could be short, and if we're short, we don't get new people and new businesses.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And one more thing to clarify, if you do see the meeting on the 9th, is that there was talk about zoning and talk about comprehensive land use plan. They're two different things. The comprehensive land use plan says, broadly speaking, this is how we want things to go. We want this area to be low density residential. We want this area to be mixed commercial and residential. Zoning is underneath that, and that says, look, this is zoned SR4 or whatever it is, and here's a list of things you can do in that district. So even if this is granted, Tom, that property owner would have to come back and get a zoning change, as I understand, to allow a duplex to be built where normally only single family would be allowed. But the comprehensive plan does set a good tone for what we're trying to accomplish in the days, weeks, and years ahead.
Yeah, definitely. All right, we have a couple more items before we actually adjourn on this one. I'd say.
There you go.
Something to do here, I don't want to say something, but how our debt management is managed, utility, I should say.
Yeah, we do a lot with utilities. We talk sometimes about how we are separate. We're not totally separate, they're under our umbrella. But a lot of good work goes on between the staff of the two entities. Ron Ullman, our finance director, works with Kent Miller and Nick Cum over there at Marshfield Utilities. Well, we use the same financial advisor, Ellers. Used to use PFM, but now we use Ellers. And last year, Ron came forward and said, we could save some money if we would transfer who does our paying agent work of debt, our debt management. And this is based on how many issuances we have and that have to be tracked. So we decided to go with Ellers last year and have them do that, since they're already doing so much of our work. Well, now Marshfield Utilities is saying, hey, maybe that makes sense for us too. We could save some money and have everything under the one umbrella of Ellers. So that's what they're recommending. What I put in your notes here is an email or a memo from Ron last year. We're still waiting for the resolution from Ellers to support this request, but I think the council will be supportive. I think the council continues to be supportive, Tom, of any way in which Marshfield Utilities and the city can work together for financial planning, for anything that can bring us together. There's a lot of ways that our staffs can work together to for the betterment of both.
Well, I think so. And you, Ron and the council and others have brought in Ellers, and I think that our utilities also saw the benefit of that. And
They have.
That's good. So,
They have. And working our borrowing together is good because ultimately the whole overall debt load comes into play when we borrow money. You know, they want to know where we're going. To us, utilities is a little bit separate in a way. To other people, it's all part of the umbrella of the city of Marshfield. So we need to be in sync.
Yeah, and I got to meet Ellers many years ago, so I liked what they did
They do good
for my
work.
previous job, so
Yep.
they do good work. So that was the last piece that you highlighted, I believe. Oh, we missed it. Look at I missed. Bill in place. Back to the original piece. That comes down the agenda after our public hearing, right?
Yeah, it's the laundry list of all these projects and exactly what would be specially assessed. And the reason I bring this on to talk about one last time before we wrap up, Tom, is this. I want people to know that, again, the public hearing is at the beginning of the meeting, and if you call, if you show up, if you write us a letter or an email and say, I don't think I should be charged this much money for what they did in front of my house. I don't think I benefit that much. I don't think that my driveway, you know, is as large as they said it was as far as what I had to pay for the work done to my driveway approach. You can also say that right at the meeting, but you get that information to them, they conduct the public hearing, and then later on in the meeting, they can actually decide. They can just say, oh, sounds good. Engineers, you know, information was fine, nobody argues it. Or they can say, well, we've heard from a couple of property owners, and let's talk a little bit about their concerns before we vote and see if adjustments are needed. So I guess I just want you to know that your input, you and I talk about this all the time, your input is valuable, your input is needed, and your input early in the meeting, however you bring it forward, will be considered later in the meeting.
You can always watch this on our YouTube channel, available on our city website at ci.marshfield.wi.us, and you can see that right into this, the scroll that we have on our homepage, and there's a video piece there, and that'll take you to the YouTube page, as well as Channel 991. It's there, and you can watch that too. And Steve will give us here, after this, some short piece in Facebook too that kind of highlights a little bit of what we did. So thanks again for watching our council preview, and we'll be back in 2 weeks again. We won't do this for our CIP. That's just a CIP meeting, and I look forward to that again. Thank our viewers for watching. I'm Tom Laux, Communications Director, City of Marshfield.